Hey, everybody, welcome to the Entrepreneur Motivation Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Bello, and today we've got Mike Ham on the show. Mike, welcome.
Chris, what's going on, man? We haven't talked in so long, and I am so pumped to be up here on the show.
Been 10 minutes since I was on your interview, on your podcast.
10 minutes. It was 10 minutes too long. I mean, because we really bonded, I think, in that first 45 minutes. And I'm a little bit jealous now. You get to go second. You get to really up, take it up a notch from what I, did on my show.
That's true. I kind of have the advantage of knowing, okay, what kind of questions does he ask? And, what kind of guy is he and whatnot. So
right.
I saw your bio too. So just to let everyone know, you are the coolest guy in title insurance, which I love that. We talked about that when we first set up these calls initially, is that you are really cool. Usually title insurance isn't one of those things that you think are necessarily like sexy or fun, but it's really cool that you bring that aspect to it. And so just to let our audience know who you are, you're a sales executive with Fidelity National Title Group, the nation's largest group of title companies and title insurance underwriters. And we can also dive into that in today's discussion. And then throughout your career, you've been an extremely active networker. I can definitely see that. For those listening, we actually met in Clubhouse, and you formed the next generation of New Jersey networking group to give young professionals of all industries an opportunity to connect, network, collaborate, and grow together. And you are the host of the Morning Spotlight, which of course I was just on, and you started that in 2020 as a daily LinkedIn video. And you would interview networking partners, clients, friends, and more in an effort to give everyone an opportunity to speak directly to your network. And after 3 months and 60 episodes of that series, you transitioned into the more traditional podcast format, which I think is a lot of people are consuming audio, in my opinion, like more than video, because it takes less time to sit down and turn on the camera or, log into the computer. So I definitely can see why you did that. And you talk about business, mental health, health and fitness, and more. You've interviewed high profile members of the real estate industry, professional athletes and coaches, and others that provide your listeners with great insights on business and in life. So boom, we've got a lot we could talk about here today.
Yeah,
welcome once again.
Of course, yeah, and that's me, and this has been great. So I'll just sign off now. But no, I'm just kidding.
That's the show.
And that's the show. That was great. I'm really excited. I was listening to a couple of your episodes before we actually got on earlier when you did my show. And I'm a little intimidated because I do think that some of the people that you've had on may be a little bit above maybe Mike Ham's level, but nobody else is the coolest guy in title insurance. That's just me. So
there you go.
That's what I'm bringing to the table.
You can feel comfortable either way because all the title people I've ever met, and me being in real estate as an agent and as a wholesaler before as well, I've met several, and they're kind of like, not necessarily fun. And everyone's kind of awkward at selling and pitching and getting you to come to their events and whatnot. But when we connected, and of course we met in a Clubhouse room, and then we made an introduction over a Zoom call, I was like, dude, you're cool. You got an awesome background. I love the branding, your podcast, like you got the shirt, little picture on the back, and like the green screen and everything, right? So it all kind of ties together, but you're branding yourself in a way that's very unique. And I think, like we would joke on my show, you said we're basically the same person in different states, right? Just turned 30, like we have a podcast, we're in real estate, like cool stuff, man. So what did you do before real estate? I don't think I ever really dove into that very much.
I was a college baseball coach for 5 years before I started selling title insurance. So obviously kind of kept that career path thing, pretty consistent. So obviously not, but so
sarcasm.
Sarcasm for your audience. I don't know if they get that a lot here, but I went to the College of New Jersey, graduated 2012, played baseball there. Had a political science degree, so really, I'm not using that at all. So, did not know what
supply chain degree either.
Yeah, I didn't know what I wanted to do. With that degree, I didn't want to go to law school. Both my parents are attorneys, and not that they were like discouraging the law school route, but they were just like, maybe you should do something else. Little did they know that I was going to go like the baseball coaching route. And I'm sure that they probably wish I went to law school.
Like, don't do that.
They're like, oh no. So I did that for 5 years. So I worked at TCNJ for a year, Franklin and Marshall College, which is in Pennsylvania, for a year. And then St. John Fisher College, which is in Rochester, New York, for like 2.5 years. I was a grad assistant there, so I got a free MBA, coached. We went to the Division III World Series. We had kids get drafted. I had so much fun being a college baseball coach, but I had just turned 26. So obviously, like, I was off the family healthcare plan. So I had to make a decision, do I want to try to chase this dream? And while it was fun, it was, not a great social job, because like in the summers when my friends would be doing stuff like going to the beach on the weekends or whatever, I was like driving up and down like the New York State Thruway, going to games and watching kids play baseball for recruiting. And I would do it all summer, Sunday through Saturday, finding a game to go watch and going to go see it. So I did that for, like I said, I did that for a while, made the decision to I moved back to Jersey, got a job at an indoor sports facility near my parents' house, as their director of operations, which, whatever. I would have, I was just looking for something, maybe like give some lessons over the holidays in 2016. Yeah. I didn't want to do like holiday help at Macy's or anything like that. So I was like, I got a skill. Maybe I'll use that. So they looked at my resume. They said, okay, you're a college baseball coach with an MBA. Do you want to run our business? And I said, yes. So I did it for 8 months. It was not a good fit for a variety of reasons. I was working, 7 days a week, sometimes 12-hour days, often 12-hour days. I think the first few months that I was there, I took off Christmas Day and New Year's Day and like some random Sunday in February. And I was just there all the time, dealing with parents calling me because little Johnny didn't play shortstop for 3 innings and little Timmy did. Yeah. Now it's like 10 o'clock on a Sunday night and I'm like powering down and they're like calling me screaming. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. Yeah. So my father, I mentioned, is an attorney. He's worked in title insurance for a really long time. He's actually regional counsel at Fidelity now. And, he knew that we needed some salespeople because, we had a lot that were retiring that year. We had a lot that were coming up for retirement pretty soon. And there was really no backfill. So he was just like, try title. And I was like, okay. And sure. I would have done any job at that point. So took an interview, got a job. At the beginning, did not like it. But now 3.5 years later, here I am doing it, loving it, and now I'm the coolest guy in title insurance.
Yeah. You started a podcast since then. You're on Clubhouse. Yeah. That's where we actually met in a podcasting room, and just lots of great things coming along. So how is the majority of your business, I would imagine, is coming from your social media content, your posts, maybe Clubhouse, your podcast possibly as well. You're starting to get some calls. Is that the case? Or are you doing any of the traditional stuff that they probably teach you in training to get clients?
What's interesting is that, that's it's not an easy answer.
It's probably a mix, because that's me too.
There's a lot of gray.
Right?
Yeah, there's a lot of gray in that answer, because when I started, obviously I had no clients because I did not come from real estate. I came from college baseball coaching. So who from that world is going to give me a deal? They're not. So I went into it with wide eyes, and I was just like, I'm going to call all the big time real estate attorneys in New Jersey and get them to send me business because I'm Mike Hamm, and so did that. I did not get any. So
they're like, everyone always calls us, go away. It's so hard to get through on the phone these days because everyone knows, like, we get 10 spam calls a day already. So you're just already like, you got 2 seconds. And if it sounds like spam, I'm out.
Yeah. Now, since then I have gotten a couple deals from that initial group that I had called, but only because I have established myself and they know me now and respect me that I could actually do the job. But at the beginning, I'm not sure how it is in Texas. I think it might be similar, but in New Jersey, it doesn't matter what company you go to, you get charged the exact same price for essentially the exact same product, whether you go to a big underwriter like us or a small mom and pop agency in New Jersey. So it doesn't matter who you use. It's all just relationships and service. Yeah. Because I was so new, I did not have any relationships. And these people have used the same title person for 25, 30 years sometimes. So I knew that wasn't going to be an avenue that was going to work out for me, at least initially. So then I started shifting my focus onto young real estate attorneys at big law firms because they weren't getting a lot of love. They're having the same struggles too, I would imagine. They're having the same struggles. Nobody's really calling them. So show them some love, started doing more stuff on LinkedIn because, we're the same age. The people that I was calling were between the ages of like 25 and 40. So in my general world, they have an experience using social media platforms like a LinkedIn. So I started kind of like, reaching out and trying to make some connections on LinkedIn. And that actually led to business and like basically cold calling through LinkedIn and putting some content out there to at least like kind of establish myself so people can kind of like look at your page. And if they want to respond, they can. And actually like one of my biggest clients now is a managing partner at a firm here in Jersey. And that was just a LinkedIn message I sent in 2017. So, you never know like kind of how it expands. I did kind of lose not lose. I didn't spend as much time as I probably should have keeping that content going, because I just felt like doing the content, actually selling, going out, trying to do my job, all that kind of stuff was just kind of like, there was just so much going on. I was going through my own stuff like in life. So I just kind of like didn't stay as consistent as I should have. But now that I'm just putting more of an emphasis on this virtual stuff. And I started, like you said, last year with virtual networking, with the podcast, with Clubhouse, with all these other platforms to get more of me out there in front of people, because that was my biggest fear. At the beginning of the pandemic in March here in Jersey, everything shut down.
How are you going to meet people? Yeah.
Yeah. I can't go to lunch with people. I can't get drinks because the restaurants aren't open, So that was a big thing where I needed to try to and I think one of the most overused words on Clubhouse is pivot. So I had to pivot. I needed to think of a different way.
In 2020, that's like with COVID, everybody had to pivot. So it definitely is the most overused word, but I mean, everyone had to do it in most cases. Right.
Yeah. So similar to everybody, I tried to figure out a way to pivot. That was my opportunity to do so. So I'm excited, and this is just a really long-winded, convoluted way to answer your question. I'm excited for when we get back, into the world where larger in-person events, even like smaller in-person events, are happening on a frequent basis. So I can still be doing this stuff, because this stuff has been huge for me as far as a networking standpoint. Go to those events and then interact with people that I've had on the show, or people that want to come on the show. All of a sudden, I don't have to just like walk up to a group of guys and be like, here's my business card. I can have them approach me. Or maybe even walk up to them because I know one of them because they've been on the show, so now I have like this whole different, opportunity, value add type thing to go up to these people at these events and introduce myself and hopefully get some business that way. So I haven't gotten like the phone call been like, hey, I saw your Instagram post. You want to do my title insurance? I haven't gotten that one yet. That would be cool. And again, I think I said on the last show, my show when you were on, if you could teach me how to get people to call you from your Instagram posts, that's key. But that's kind of like where I'm at with like the social side of it. It's just like still building and developing this platform so that we do get back. I'm like ready and set up to go and hit the ground running once we actually get there.
That's powerful. And I mean, I'm kind of struggling with that too. Like I talked about on your show, I never know when someone DMs me on Instagram or Facebook, they could have been lurking for the last year or two, watching my stories, seeing me post about open houses. Oh, I got this one sold. Here's another buyer looking for a house. We just found them this deal. In the consistency over time, you're kind of on the radar, right? Like I got LASIK 10 years ago, and I know this is me interviewing you, but I got LASIK 10 years ago, but like one of my eyes is kind of changing vision a little bit. And I went for an eye appointment a few months ago, but like yesterday it was bad enough where I was like, it's kind of giving me a headache by the end of the day of not being able to see 100% clearly. Yeah. And I went in today. I didn't care. I didn't rate shop. I bought a $500 pair of glasses, and I basically just called them and I'm like, look, I don't want to have a headache. Like I want to see 100% clear. I know my vision's perfect, but still I'm coming in. Are you open? I'm going to pick the frames, order the lenses. Let me know when they'll be here. And that's an example. Like there are people doing that with your page, with my page. And they're kind of like, okay, I'm not buying a house anytime soon, or I don't need, title insurance or whatever. And they're just kind of sitting there on the sidelines. But as soon as it's on their radar, like, oh, my lease is running out. Ooh, we got a raise. This could be a down payment on a house. Yeah. We're going to be top of mind. And you never know. That's the frustrating thing. Like I never know when someone's going to be like, hey, we're moving to another city. We need to sell our house like next month. Yeah. And so you kind of just have to keep on putting a web of content out there, which is what we're doing. Clubhouse, LinkedIn, conversations, Zoom calls. That way, when we get back out into the real world and you're meeting people, they're going to be like, hey, I've listened to your podcast. I saw your video on LinkedIn or YouTube. And it goes a lot further than just trying to do the stuff that doesn't scale without doing all this stuff to supplement it. So I think we're on the right strategy for sure.
Yeah, if it all goes according to plan, especially on my end, because it seems like you have kind of like figured it out a little bit. But if all goes according to plan on my end, I'm going to be crushing it. So call me back in the summer, man. Yeah, and we'll see how we're doing.
Oh, it's beautiful. And then just make sure, like my only tip for you that I've been slowly piecing together like new strategies. Like today I wrote this in my journal. I was like, I just set up an automated email. I'm just using the free version of MailChimp to send a new email to all new subscribers. It'll introduce me and warm them up to me instead of them just getting a random email. If I add them to my list where they're like, oh, what the hell? Chris is talking about how he walked his dog. It's going to be like, hey, if you have no idea who I am, maybe my assistant introduced us, or maybe you booked a call with me, or maybe you heard my podcast. This is who I am. This is what I do. I'd love to help you however I can. Here's a Zoom call to book a time with me. And here's a link to listen to my podcast. And now they're like, okay, maybe I'll stay subscribed. I know who this guy is. I remember I signed up for this or I downloaded that free guide instead of like unsubscribe because I'm talking about something random.
I don't care about this episode of this podcast. Like, don't send me
Exactly.
anymore.
So that would be my only thing. If you're not already building your email list, I mean, really do be sure to do that, because that is the best way to make sure you can retarget them, you know, pixel them on Facebook, all that stuff. So I'm kind of getting to the next steps where I've been flying by the seat of my pants for so long of just, oh, you want to work with me? Cool. Like, let me call you, I guess. And now it's like, use this link. It's going to be a Zoom call. It's going to be at least a day out in the future, so I'm not scrambling. So it sounds like you're doing all the right things, man. And I'd love to see where you're going to be a year from now, 5 years from now. This whole web of content that you're putting out there is definitely going to come back, and just, even if you change your career or do something else, or maybe you buy the title company and you own it, like, business is going to flow, man.
Right. Yeah. The largest direct operation title insurance underwriter in the country might be a little bit hard to buy, but I mean, I could always do something else. But I mean, I know we're recording. Yeah, you never know. But yeah,
dude,
everybody listening,
change in 5 years.
Everybody that's listening that actually works for Fidelity, I'm not leaving. Don't worry, I'm going to stay. I mean, that might be good or bad depending on who you ask, but that's okay.
But like we talked about before too, just freedom, being able to do whatever you want and be wherever you want, you know, that's a powerful thing whenever you have leverage and you've got business and leads. And so, I mean, like, I'm sitting here, I booked a room at my Keller Williams brokerage office, and I think I saw a few people peep in here, like they want to probably use the room to talk about something. And I'm just sitting here recording a podcast with like a ring light and my camera. And I'm like, dude, I don't care. Like, I'm closing like the top amount of deals in my office, not number one, but like I'm top 5% probably here. And so I pay the same amount of fees. We all pay the same amount of fees. I'm going to sit here for 3 hours because I booked the room. And I'm not going to feel bad. If you need to meet with someone, you got to go somewhere else to do your one deal this month, because I've already got 5 closing, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So it kind of gives you that like feeling of success. And I don't want to be like mean or anything, but you kind of know that clout that you get of being the expert. People now approach you, right? I mean, you having a podcast, how has that been for your business and for your, I guess, how your friends see you, your friends and your family? They're taking you more seriously now, I would imagine, than when you first started.
Right. Yeah. Well, definitely when I first started, it was like, what is this? Like, why are you doing
this? What's a podcast? Yeah.
What's a podcast? Like, you know, don't like say anything bad. Like, don't, you know, all this kind of stuff. Don't cuss. I mean, I know I accidentally let one slip the last time. I normally don't.
All good.
In the last
Gary
episode.
V changed my mind on that, man. I'm like, you know, you want to cuss? Go ahead. Like, it's fine.
Right. But I think that for me, it's been an opportunity to like, just network more, right? So like, I'm talking to you, you're in Houston. I've talked to people all over the country. I've talked to people in Wales. I've talked to people in Costa Rica, not necessarily real estate related, but like I've talked to them about anything. And it gets me out there more, and it gets me like doing what I do for work, doing it more. What I do for work is just have conversation with people. So like, I don't approach my show as an interview. So like when I started the show back in May, it was just a LinkedIn video series, 5-minute interview, 3 questions, all scripted. I would put a Google Doc in the middle of the screen, read the intro, read the questions, you know, and read the outro. And like, that was it. And it was just like so stiff. I would wear like a suit jacket, like sometimes a tie, and I didn't have the t-shirts or anything like that, but that's what I would do. And then
you got to start somewhere though. The thing is that you started, which is like, kudos to you.
Yeah. And then, but I just think that like just being more, once I kind of got into it and then wanted to actually like have an actual in-depth conversation with someone, rather than just like read them 3 questions and then not listen to what they said back to me. I just became like a lot more comfortable just in social settings altogether, because now like I'm talking to so many different kinds of people from so many different walks of life and a lot of different industries and all that kind of stuff, because the show is primarily real estate. We do a real estate episode every Tuesday, but on Thursdays I do like a lot of different stuff. I mean, I've had, like you mentioned in the intro, I mean, I've had professional athletes, I've had a musician on, we've done mental health and fitness, you know, like a whole array of different topics. So I'm talking to a lot of different people. It just makes me more comfortable in social situations. And granted, I mean, I've never been uncomfortable in social situations, maybe not as comfortable as I am now. And also granted, we're not in that many social situations right now.
There's a lot of like unique situations happening right now, but
but I just think that for me, it's just been a great way to kind of just like put myself out there. And like, the more that I put myself out there, the more good seems to start to happen, you know? And like, maybe it's not like you said, I mean, you don't know like when that deal is going to come, what, you know, they hear an episode or they're a guest on a show. You don't know when that could come to fruition, but at the same time, like, I'm confident in the stuff that I'm doing, and I'm getting a lot of good feedback from the people that I work for. They're like, this is awesome because nobody else in your
No one's
world
doing
is
that.
doing this. So the more I do it, the more comfortable I get at it, the better I get at it. And, now I'm guesting on shows, which is something I did not do last year. I probably should have. But guesting on more shows like I am right now and just getting the message out. So like, we don't have to talk about real estate at all, but
you just
people
add
get
value,
to know me.
People know you and they
Right.
like you. Yeah.
Driving back to my show, driving back to my content, driving back to there. Next thing you know, they're like, wow, that's Mike Ham. He is the coolest guy in title insurance. So I want to talk to him. I mean, I'm buying a house. I'm buying, like a $20 million commercial property. Like, let's chat. Like that's the call that I want to get one of these days for sure.
And I know it's going to come. I mean, I've honestly had people from my audience reach out and they're further along than me. They're making more money than me. Maybe they're like an attorney reached out to me asking if I would coach him on how to make a podcast. And I'm like, man, this guy's like legit, wears a fancy, expensive suit, like closes deals, helps clients out. And he's coming to me like, who am I to actually do that? So there's a little bit of that imposter syndrome there. But like you mentioned, as you do it more, as you put out more content, you get better at speaking. You're more comfortable in front of the camera. I mean, how many of your friends and family, like probably most people, they don't do live videos. They'll never turn the camera on. They don't want to hear their voice in a podcast mic. But from us doing hundreds of episodes and just continuing to show up, the other people who are watching us, that's inspiring them. And they see us as the leader. They're coming to us, not their old, like my friend's parent who's like maybe a realtor from 20 years ago and sells like 2 houses a year and never posts. They're not going to do that. They're going to want to talk to the who's hip, who's up with all the, the cool technology on Clubhouse, right? We're early adopters in a way of that. So man, I think we're onto something here for sure. Just trying new things, making relationships and not necessarily talking about what we do, just adding value, creating friendships. And then boom, someone gives you that call 5 months from now, maybe a year from now, you're going to get that $20 million commercial deal call. And it's just incredible what happens when you just put good seeds out there. They're going to come back for sure.
Yeah. It's like the more good you put out into the world, the more good eventually comes back to you. And like, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think it goes just well beyond just, just putting out like title insurance is this,
I see so many people do that, man.
Right.
Like loan officers and real estate people. It's the same thing. Like, here's this house. Here's another house, but it has got one extra bedroom. Cool.
Who cares?
So what?
Right. Like, why would I want to do business with you if you're just posting that kind of stuff? I don't know anything about you, like you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was on this show or my show, but it's all blending together for me now. But I think that for me, right. Like, am I asking sometimes
that's the one downside with the podcast swap, because I'm like, wait, did we talk about that just now, or was that on your
right? So you have to refer back to the Morning Spotlight episode to know if we actually talked about it wherever or here. But yeah, I mean, like, just putting more of like my personality out there, which is always something that I was like a little bit hesitant to do on social media, because social media just has like that stigma.
It's always out there.
It's always out there. It's like out there forever. People could see it, all that kind of stuff. And
they're going to judge you.
Right. And like, what if you say something bad and you get canceled or whatever? I'm like, I don't do anything bad. I talk about, real estate. Like, I mean, I'm not disparaging anybody, but I think that one of the things that I have really enjoyed is being able to put my personality out there on display a little bit more, primarily through the podcast, but even like doing like a reel or something on Instagram, or just doing something where it's just kind of like, it's not, the show, it's not title insurance, it's just Mike, and I think that is where people start to lose a little bit of their credibility on social media, is that it doesn't feel authentic, because I think that authentic is another word that's like so overused and so, mangled up that it doesn't even mean the same thing that it's supposed to. And people are like searching for authenticity. So the more you're able to put your actual self out there in front of people, and then they get to know you as a person, I think that's the most important thing. And that's what I wanted from the show. That's what I want from like the actual content that I'm putting on Instagram and LinkedIn and all those places, is just to like, for them to get to know me. Because if they get to know me, and like I said earlier, it's all relationships and service here in the title insurance world, here in New Jersey, at least. So that's what I want. Like, I want them to like me so that they think of me when they have to do that kind of stuff.
Definitely. And what you said there, I mean, I know as beat to death that word authenticity is, it really is very important, because people can, like, our BS detectors are so finely tuned in this day and age. As soon as someone's doing something that doesn't seem authentic, like I get a lot of calls from, complimentary people like lenders, for example, and they want to pitch me on something. They want to be my preferred lender. And then I know they're doing the system, and I get it because they're in sales. I'm in sales, but it just feels inauthentic when they're calling me, leaving me a voicemail, texting me, hey, Chris, I wanted to follow up on that call. I mean, do you have anyone who's looking for help? Is there anything I can help with? Like, they're fishing for a lead or business versus authentically actually caring about you and not talking about business and just being there for you all the time in a way where you actually do want to send them business. Cause like, you don't feel like you're getting used for business in a way. Yeah. I don't know if you ever get that feeling. Like you can kind of tell when people rub you the wrong way, right?
Oh yeah. Like instantly. I mean, like it's like the gut thing. Like, as soon as you get that person that's just going to like, go right to the pitch or right to like what you can do for them,
yes,
as opposed to like what they can do for you. Like you said, like that BS radar is so like finely tuned because we just get inundated with all of it all the time. And maybe we've gotten burned at certain points by different types of people in different areas of life. But like
so the walls are up.
Walls are up, right? So you're probably a little bit more anti-authentic or anti-connection than you should be. But it's just because there's just so much crap out there that like it's hard to kind of weed through it. I think that's the most important thing is just putting yourself out there, because the more vulnerable you are, the more just real you are, the more like, no filters, no edits, no nothing, it's just like, here it is. If you like it, I love you. If
what
not,
you see is
get
what
out.
You get.
Exactly. Yeah, right.
It's super powerful because when people reach out, I mean, you may have had this happen to you whenever people who've heard me on the podcast, like I've done a couple of Zoom calls with people who listen to the show, or maybe someone has worked with me or reached out to me and they've listened to my content before and they're like, oh, you're exactly like you are in your podcast. It sounds familiar because it is me. It's not, I don't sound different when I do my show. You are you, no matter what. You may have started off with the suit jacket and you've of course kind of like, okay, you got your own t-shirt and you're wearing a baseball cap and everything. So you've become more comfortable and relaxed in your own personal brand that you want to embrace. And same here, like there's people walking around in fancy suits and stuff in the luxury division. I'm wearing like, let's talk about real estate shirt, like, and like joggers, I'm wearing like these jogger khaki things that don't even have a belt, because that's like who I want to just be myself. I don't want to have to worry about what I'm wearing and doing. And things are changing in a way too, right? Because I'm sure, how are things at like your office? Do you work with a lot of like the old school corporate-y type colleagues and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I mean, like the title insurance industry as a whole,
it's very professional.
Very professional, old school. You're dealing with a lot of real estate attorneys or attorneys in general, developers, people that you need to kind of like put that front up at the very beginning. And a lot of my mentors are old school title insurance salespeople, and they've made more money than I probably ever will make in my entire life doing this. But they do it a certain way that I can pick stuff that works for me and incorporate it into my own way of doing things. But it's not going to be 100%. If I tried to sell like, one of my mentors is Jack Marino in New York City. Like he's one of my sales mentors. He's made, he's crushed it.
He's doing
his entire life, but he's in his 70s. He's done stuff a certain way for a long time. And even he understands that when we sit down and have lunch together, which we haven't done in over a year now, because of New York City and pandemic. And I don't know if anybody heard there was a pandemic, but like when we sit down and have lunch, like he's giving me tips and stuff that I can try, but he understands that like the way that I'm going to do it is going to be a lot different than maybe like, he did in 1985. You know what I mean? So like, that's really important, is just being able to take, because there are stuff that will work across, time and space. It goes beyond time and space. There's stuff that
technology,
works.
Man, a lot has changed, right?
Right. A lot's changed, but that at the core of it is like that trust factor. So that's what we're talking about, authenticity. That's what that is. It's so people trust you. So it doesn't matter if you're like selling title insurance in 1990 when we were born, or if you're selling it in 2021 when you and I are trying to crush it in the real estate game. That's what it is. It's all built on trust. And the way that you convey that trust or build that trust with other people is just packaged differently. So now we have to do it a lot online, especially like the last year, obviously a very virtual, but even going beyond COVID, like that's just becoming more of what the norm is. They didn't have that opportunity to do it back then. So they needed to figure out like what they had to do. So a handwritten note, or even, I still do that stuff.
That still works well. Yeah. I need to get back to that, because the stuff that's inefficient stands out more in all the noise, right?
Yep.
Everyone's doing live videos and live streams and Zoom calls and clubhouse rooms. So now if you do the inefficient stuff, like if you get a handwritten letter that's written out in actual ink, that is, whoa, who does that, right? It's going to mean more, and that person might even hold on to it for a little bit versus just the email that they hit mark or archive or delete in 2 seconds. Because it's like, so much content, right? You have to just
Right.
filter everything coming in.
Yeah. A couple of years ago, so not this past Christmas of 2019, I was like, I had done Christmas cards the year before to all my clients and all my network. And was just like, I bought some like cheapo ones at Target and like filled them out and sent them out. And they were nice because they were all handwritten. I wrote like a special little thing to each person and sent like 100. The following year, 2019, I was like, I need to do something like really that's just going to like get in people's faces. So I put my suit on. I drove to the Rockaway Mall. I took a picture with Santa on his lap and then put that as a Christmas card through Shutterfly, then wrote everybody a personal message and sent that out. And was all handwritten, like the picture itself, obviously, but then on the back was like a handwritten message from me, and just like the amount of like, you know, oh my God, this is the best Christmas card I've ever gotten.
Shares and posts on stories,
right? And like, so people were like, I threw out literally every other Christmas card I got, but yours is posted on my little corkboard thing, and I was like, that's what it's all about. You just got to like figure out a way where you can establish like that, like, wow, like I want to do business with Mike. Like I have so much fun when I'm with Mike. I know Mike knows what he's talking about because I do. He's been doing
this long enough now. He's actually consistent with it. The whole 9 yards. Yeah.
Right. So that's one of the things. I think like to me, the authenticity is what builds trust. And then once you build trust, that's what really kind of gets you rolling in any industry. It could be real estate. It could be podcasting. It could be, I don't care. It doesn't matter what it is. That's what really drives it home for you.
Exactly. And then for those listening, I mean, that's one great way of building the trust and authenticity is if you're a content creator and you're just showing up every single week or twice a week, you're doing those live videos, you're posting the YouTube videos, that kind of shows that you are trustworthy because you are doing what you said you're going to do. And there's so many people who are like, oh, I'm going to start a podcast. And I kind of like, I'm not hoping that they fail, but I'm like, all right, let me check back in 3 months and see if they're still posting or if it got too time consuming and they stopped entirely. And most people, it's just so much work and you don't see immediate reward that they just don't stick it out long enough. And so that alone goes to show like, okay, you've been doing this, you're staying consistent, you're constantly creating new connections, collaborating with people. Like you're on my show right now, for example, and that goes to show to others that you're going to do that whenever they work with you. You're not going to quit. You're going to show up every day and you're going to give it all you got.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and that's what it whittles down to, honestly, right? So like when you have guests on your show, like I like having people like you on the show because I know when we put the episode out that you're going to put it out as well, like share it, do all that other kind of stuff. Yeah. You know, like how many times have you had a guest where you're just like keyed up for, like you're so excited and then they just like, share your stuff. Like they just disappear. Like they do the episode with you and they disappear and you're just like,
that is disappointing, but I get it. Especially if they're high up there and they're just so busy.
Oh yeah, right.
They go on all the shows, but they won't really give you backlinks or promote it themselves. Right. It's just it's tough.
Yeah, but you know, it is what it is. It's the chase, I guess.
Yeah, and if you just reduce the barriers for them to post, it becomes easier. Like one hack that I've learned that I need to actually do more of, if you just post stuff on your story, like clips from the interview, and you tag them, it'll pop up in their direct messages on Instagram and say like, add to story. They can literally click one button to repost it on their story. And most of the time they do, like even the big guests or someone on their team. And now their audience can see that they were on your show. Maybe you get some traffic from their audience as well. So that's like one strategy that I need to actually better utilize. It has worked for me before.
Yeah, I've been trying to do that more. And then what I started doing more of, that I did not do at the very beginning, and I think I missed the boat with like a lot of just building an audience at the very beginning because I didn't do this, was I was spending so much time. We talked about when you were on my show that you have like the team that kind of helps you put some of this stuff together. Editing and yeah. And like I do that stuff for my show. And what I also do is I put together like two videos, whether now I'm doing like a short one and a longer one to do like an IGTV type thing. And I put together a Canva post. And what I do now is I send that out to every single one of my guests. Like, even if they're big or small, I'm like, here's 3 things that you could put out. Here's my links also. So if you do blast it out to like whatever email chain you have, these are the links, drive people to the show or the website, whatever. I just kind of like, you know, enable them to actually share something rather than like asking for like a reshare on LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever. Because a lot of times they'll just like, I'll be like, hey, can you reshare this? Yeah, don't worry. And then they like it. And then you never hear from them again. But you know, like at least then you kind of like, you know, facilitating them having content that they could put on some channel somewhere. You know, like I don't promote my YouTube page that much. And I had on Mitzi Perdue, who, if you don't know who Mitzi Perdue is, her dad started the Sheraton hotel chain and her late husband was Perdue Chicken. So Mitzi's got some juice, right? So Mitzi put up my YouTube video on her page. And if I normally get like 2 views on my YouTube pages, she's currently at like 500, Jeez. But that's what it all is, right? So like I gave her all the links. She was like, I love this. Thank you so much. Put it where I don't even know where it is. She hasn't even told me. Put it someplace. She shared it
to her people, maybe an email list, maybe her own channel, whatever.
Right. And it just every day I check and it's just like, oh my God, like
it's got
just
more
keeps
views.
Growing. And
awesome.
but that's what it is. Like you enable somebody that has some juice with an audience that can put it someplace to kind of get more interactions with it. And boom, there you go. So like, granted, it hasn't spelt more subscribers to the YouTube channel because she probably just like posted it on her own page, but it's just like maybe they see me again on somebody else's page. I'm like, oh, wait,
I've seen that guy before.
I've seen this guy with the beard and the glasses and the hat and the shirt. I need to go check out his podcast probably.
Yeah. And that's it. I mean, it's just that consistency when you're on all the platforms and people have seen you long enough, you start to kind of focus in on them a little more. Like you'll listen to their podcast, you watch their YouTube video, you join their Facebook group, and holy crap, now you just signed up for a $55 product. I'm just talking about myself and what I did recently with one guy I've been following his stuff, and he offered something. It's like an all-day real estate related class, and I jumped in there and I got value from it. And now I'm on the email list, and I'm kind of like, I'm following along the journey a little more closely. Right. Whereas at first I was in that, hesitant stage. Is this person legit? Are they a fake guru type of person?
Yeah.
And through the consistency over time, I'm like, okay, I'm going to hit turn on all notifications. I want to see what this person's up to. I want to know when that next event's happening, but it doesn't always start like that. Like no one's going to just look at you and I and be like, I'm going to do all my business with them in the future.
right.
Like who the hell are we is what they're thinking.
Yeah.
And then as we get bigger podcasts, bigger shows, they see you on my show and me on yours. Oh, I've seen that person before. I trust that person. They're still doing this thing. They must be legit.
Right. Yeah,
very
absolutely.
Cool,
I think the more you put yourself out there, and that's been one of the things that like we mentioned at the top, it was just kind of like something where it was not hard, but like a little bit intimidating to kind of put yourself out there that much because you don't know like how people are going to perceive you. You mentioned imposter syndrome, I think on my show.
Sure.
There's just like a lot of that going on. And I think that like once you kind of like get yourself over that hump and you realize that like, I mean, at the beginning, if I got 50 listens to an episode, I'd be like, holy crap, like that's not that much. Like Joe Rogan gets millions, and then I'm like, even when I look at like your thing, it's like, we get X amount of downloads per episode. I'm just like, oh my God, like that's way more than me. But then when I look at like my show and I think of in the sense where like, if I could take, let's just do that early episode where I get 50 listens. I take 50 people, I put them in a room.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. And like, that means that my message consistently every week is resonating with at least 50 people because they come back to the Morning Spotlight for Mike Hamm. They come back to this show for Chris Bello because every week they're going to have a different guest on. And while that guest might be cool or that guest might be really knowledgeable on a specific topic, they're always coming back for you. Or that you want them to come back for you because that's the control,
exactly.
So like, that's what's most important is like, again, it all goes back to trust. They trust you and what you're doing and all that kind of stuff. The more you put yourself out there, the more trust you establish and the more you attract people that are like-minded people like yourself.
And it makes so much sense to us because we've been in the game. We've been doing this for a while, but there's so many people who don't get it. I've mentioned this before that when I've added a few real estate contacts who have been in the game for 20 years, obviously when things were a little different and it wasn't so easy to just do a live stream video to hundreds or thousands of people. When I started posting all the content and they started seeing my feed, I remember the feedback from one of the guys was like, hey, like, I'm confused. Like, why are you posting this stuff? It has nothing to do with real estate. Are you kind of wasting your time on that? It seems like you're not focused. Little did he know, like I had this pretty like top rated business podcast, getting a lot of downloads, getting a lot of connections. And it's just something that content creators like you and I, we understand that it's a long game. It's going to take a lot of time. The connections that we've gotten from here are amazing. I mean, the fact that we talked in Clubhouse, we're here talking now, and we're going to stay connected and send business to each other down the road, possibly. Like, how cool is that?
Yeah.
We might have never met if we were in that Clubhouse room. If that
we wouldn't have met.
Exist.
Yeah, that's the thing.
We might have bumped in at a conference like 2 years from now, but like maybe I would have never talked to you, right?
Yeah, right. I'd be like, that guy looks like a, I'm not talking to him.
He's wearing a t-shirt. He's not wearing a suit or whatever.
Yeah. What a loser.
He must not be doing any deals.
Yeah. Right. He must be doing those cat pee homes that you talked about on my episode.
Sometimes, Hit me up for those. But I mean, I also do the beautiful ones. But Man, it's so cool just to see where everything's going in the technology. But I can't wait, like you said, to get back to some in-person stuff as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, that's where it's all at. I mean, like this stuff, the virtual networking, like I started doing virtual networking in March, like right away, did not wait, just went for it.
Yeah.
And did them like 13 straight weeks. And that's kind of like, well, what ultimately got the show rolling was because of that.
Cool.
And then, doing my events, other events, the podcast, more virtual stuff over the winter and stuff. I've met more people total than I would have ever in a normal calendar year of my normal job doing what I normally do. It's just like, I could just
numbers game.
Numbers game. I can go to an event for 2 hours with 200 people and meet 10, or I can sit on a Zoom call, and meet, 5 people in the span of like 15 minutes. Right. Or whatever it is.
Or Clubhouse now. It's like people are just DMing you. You jump in a room for 20 minutes. You go in another one. You're in 3 rooms with like 500 people from the same seat in your house or your office.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But at the same time, I do think there's something to be said for like when you actually like sit down, having lunch or having a cup of coffee or having a beer with somebody, sitting down and like looking them in the face, like reading the body language, shaking their hand, getting in front of them. I think that is something that I think like is like next level, right? So like this is good because we could have a conversation and spend our entire afternoon together. This has been lovely. But at the same time, like, wouldn't it be better if we could just like sit down and really kind of like get to know each other?
Get a coffee or something. Yeah,
exactly. And kind of like, okay, like he puts skim milk in his coffee. Maybe this isn't a guy I want to talk to. Just kidding. But, but that's what I'm saying. So I think that is where it like really kind of kicks up a notch, and like those connections that we've made here in the virtual world, like really start to flesh themselves out and become like super connections, because we've gone through all like the getting to know you phase here. And then like that, we can kind of cut that out. I feel like I already kind of know you. And now we can start taking like the relationships to the next level because we're meeting in person. I think that's where I'm most excited to kind of take the show, the virtual stuff, all that is when we actually kind of do that stuff more frequently.
For sure. And I heard that on another podcast this morning as well, is that there's going to be a lot of pent up demand for conferences, for travel, like all those things are going to bounce back. Like the pendulum swings both ways since everything has been constrained and like limited, and all those travel bans and restrictions and like no conferences and canceled events and virtual events. As soon as things pick back up, I don't know whenever that is, whatever that looks like with less cases and more vaccinations and all that stuff, it's going to swing the other way. People are going to be dying to go have those face-to-face conversations, go on that trip again that they've been putting off for 1.5 years or 2 years now.
Right.
So I agree, man. And what are you most excited for going forward in your business? Like what's one thing that you think is a really good opportunity that you can't wait to go all in on?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. I think I kind of like danced around it. Again, I don't know if I said this yet on this show, but the podcast is where I think like I'm going to be able to,
is going to go. Yeah.
Yeah. And not in a sense that like, that's what I'm going to do, but that's how I'm going to, the value add. That's what the value add is going to be. Right. So like, I'm going to get in a room with a lot of people, talk to somebody and be like, oh my God, you're the podcast guy. Because I know the people that are at those events. I know that they don't have podcasts. I know that the people that I compete against here in New Jersey, at least, they don't have podcasts. Right. So like that's something that I can just bring to the table. And granted, it's like, something that, is a little bit different. You actually have to like, get on and talk for 45 minutes or however long it is. But I think that like that's something that I can bring to the table where all of a sudden I'm just giving you my network to market yourself for 45 minutes to the people that I talk to.
The platform is everything, man.
The platform is everything.
Give them a platform. Yeah. They don't have a platform. Most people that we know that come on the show. Well, I guess at this point I'm doing like a good swap for swap where it's like, okay, they have a platform, I have one, but many people that I've interviewed before, like they didn't have an audience or anything for me to really market to. So it was kind of one-sided where now they feel like they got to reciprocate in some way, which maybe they're going to send me business or do business with me themselves, right? To kind of thank me for giving them that. So I agree 100%. Like I'm already all in on the podcast, but I think that's still worth a lot of our time and focus at this time.
Yeah. And you know what I also think is that there's people out there that like, so basically, I mean, this is March 9th. I think here in New Jersey, everything shut down like March 18th or something. So like we're coming up on a year. I think we in New Jersey, we just passed like the anniversary of like the first case in New Jersey. I think either we had it or coming up on the first death in New Jersey from COVID. So it's a year. Right. So we've been dealing with this for a year. So people that have not done anything online up to this point are missing the boat. and like they're going to get themselves in a position where like they get back into the world, and people that are in my network have been seeing my face on LinkedIn, on the podcast, hearing my voice, all that kind of stuff. They did not escape me as much as they may have tried. I am still there and I'm not going anywhere. The people that didn't do that kind of stuff now all of a sudden
no one knows who they are.
Yeah, they're like, oh yeah, you're that. You send me a couple emails, but who the hell reads emails anymore? But that's the thing. So like, if you're still thinking about doing content and putting content out there, I don't care what business it is, real estate. You said underwater basket weaving on my show, but like, it doesn't matter what industry you're in. If you're not doing stuff, you need to be. Because once things do get back to normal, and I know that the timelines for everybody is different. The timeline in Texas is going to be different than the timeline here in New Jersey. It is already, because you guys lifted the mask mandate and all that kind of stuff, which is fine. Everybody's got their thing. And, so like, I think that moving forward, it's like there is a timeline, and there's going to be a point where everything's back to normal. And when you get back to normal, will people remember you? And the easiest way to put yourself out there and for people to remember you is to just be in their face. And this is the way to do it. Like be in their ear, be in their face, so that when they get back there, they can be like, oh yeah, Mike. Oh yeah, Chris. Oh yeah, so-and-so. As opposed to like, oh my God, I haven't seen or heard from you in like a year and a half.
Like, how's your business? Oh, you're not doing
I didn't realize
anything?
you were still entitled. Like that's the last thing that I want, is for that to happen.
100%. The best feeling is when everyone knows what you do. And I like to think of that as just being omnipresent on all channels. Like, people can't escape you. I think you just said that. I love what you said there, because you're right. They can't escape you. They will hear your message, and maybe they unfriend you. I mean, I don't really post crazy political things or religion things, because like I don't want any of my friends to remove me for whatever I believe, or maybe if it's different, because like all I see, green's like the same color, right? Like everyone's got that green. Yeah.
Everybody's
work together.
Green. Right.
Everybody's money's green is the saying. And so I can help people no matter what background or beliefs or whatever, because that's the skill set that I have. Real estate, obviously. And of course, we're both in the same space, as well as podcasting. And so I love what you said there in terms of just being in their face, maybe not literally in their face, because like after COVID, I feel like everyone's going to be like, give me my space, Right. But like in their digital face, have that footprint there, put out audio content, put out YouTube videos. It is a lot of work, but the returns are amazing, because you do it once, you set it and forget it. People are still watching those videos, listening to those podcasts a year later, 2 years later. It lives on, right?
Right. Yeah, it's there. It's not going anywhere. So like, people can go back to listen to my first ever episode that posted in July and learn about what was happening in the New Jersey residential market last summer, and maybe see if they can do something with that this summer. Maybe there's something that they can take from that, or whatever it is. And then, like with everything, I mean, I think it's just kind of like, if you're putting good stuff out there, and especially like if it's like some evergreen content, like some of the stuff can't be, just because it, like talk about Clubhouse now is gonna be a lot different, I think, than talking about Clubhouse in the fall or even in the summer. Yeah. But I do think that there's changing. Yeah, but I do think there's something to be said for like putting stuff out there that like some of it can be evergreen, carry over throughout. And then like, no matter what, that stuff's there. Like you said it there and people can go consume it whenever they want. So, I mean, I still get listens on like my first 10 episodes, and they posted July to September. Like I'm on 52 or whatever now.
And people love to binge content too, right? Yeah. Netflix is a perfect example. They release an entire season because no one likes to wait 1 week for one episode anymore. They want to be able to watch 4 today if they want, and 5 tomorrow, right? Yep. Or maybe they want to do like 1 a day. Like, it's up to you how you consume it. But once we put it out there, our audience can find us, get into our funnels, get on our email list, and get into our world if they want to work with us in any way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's all it is just being able to connect with people in a variety of ways. And the coolest thing about that is that you're connecting with them without actually having to be like, dear Chris, my name is Mike. I work for Fidelity. Like that kind of stuff. They find you and they're like,
find out all that stuff on their own.
Yeah, right.
Dear Chris. Gone are those days of like, dearest Mike.
Yeah, right. I long for the days that we can do in-person networking events again. But in the meantime, here is a handwritten letter from, my pen.
From my pen. Yeah, man. Well, this has been an awesome interview, just talking about, the world as it is now, how it's going to be, where our focus is in terms of like attention and just staying consistent. What is one takeaway you'd like for our audience to run with today?
It's just be yourself. I mean, like that's the one thing that I think that I would say to anybody. And it's just like, I struggled with it, and because I think I had like business Mike, I had relationship Mike, I had friend Mike, I had family Mike, and then eventually it just got exhausting juggling all those different people. So then I just kind of like was like, I'm just going to do who I am and just put them in one person. That's what the show is. That's what I try to at least convey. Even when I started the show, like I said, I didn't feel like it was me. And then once I was like, screw it, I'm just going to lean into my personality. The people that can connect with that, great. And if they can't, that's okay, because you can't please everybody no matter what kind of content you're putting out there. And that's like, I think the mindset that people get into, it's like, well, if I do a real estate podcast, everyone needs to listen to it if they want to learn about real estate. Like, no, they don't, because maybe
not
they don't
everyone's going to be your people. Right.
Yeah, your audience is not everybody, and nobody's audience is everybody, because there's always going to be one person at least that wants to be the troll, that wants to be the person that's not going to like it.
There's always dislikes. There might be 500,000 likes on that video, but there's still going to be like 20,000 dislikes, right?
Yeah, right.
You see it all the time.
Right. And you think about like what I said earlier about like if you get 50 listens on a podcast episode, you put 50 people in a room, boom, that's a lot of people.
It's amazing.
You know? And so that's what I would say. Just be yourself and just kind of roll with that, because you know, as long as the stuff that you're putting out can reach and connect with one person, you got a shot, right?
Love it.
You got a shot to do business with that person, maybe, or connect with that person, whatever it is, change their life. I don't know, whatever your podcast is about or whatever your content's about. So that's it. Be yourself. Mike Ham, Morning Spotlight. Thanks.
Boom. That's good. I don't know if you ever listened to Audio Slave back in the day. They have a song called Be Yourself, for anyone who's listening, who's heard that song. And literally the lyrics say like, to be yourself is all that you can do. And it's like super catchy and has cool guitar and stuff. But that's true. I mean, if you are being a different type of Mike to your friends, your family, your coworkers, it's very stressful and draining. That's how I felt in corporate. I felt like I couldn't be myself because I had to dress up in business professional, and people were, I guess, business casual. I can't even remember. I don't own any button down shirts really anymore. Like I donated them all.
I haven't put one on in a long time. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And so when you're yourself, it's so freeing and relaxing because you don't feel like you're uptight or tense about stuff. You're not trying not to slip up or cuss accidentally. If that's who you are, then go ahead, embrace your authentic self. And it's extremely freeing when you stop caring about what people think about how you say something or something that you might believe. And you just do you. It's like, okay, take it or leave it. Right.
Right. If you like it, great. If you don't, that's okay. Because that's the only way you could really make those real connections, right?
Exactly.
Like you can make good connections, but they're not really going to know you. So then you got to remember like, oh yeah, this person I put on like this face for. Yeah. And like people can, like we said, the BS meters are high.
They're finely tuned.
Very finely tuned. So that's where you kind of like, you may lose a connection because you're trying to be somebody that you're not, because it's like easy to be yourself. You don't have to try. It's you, right?
I love it.
You have to try to be other people or try to be other personalities or try to put on other personas. So yeah, just be you.
Boom. And where can our audience go to find you, Mike? I mean, obviously the Morning Spotlight, the podcast, is there a great central hub, social media? I can drop all the links in the show notes.
Yeah. So the morningspotlight.com is the website. So that is basically the hub for me and the show. I'm on LinkedIn quite a bit as Michael Ham. And then the podcast is all over, every platform that podcasts are listened on, including YouTube. And then I'm on Clubhouse, similar to you, at TM Spotlight is my Clubhouse handle. And then most of my other handles are at the Morning Spotlight. So Instagram, Facebook page, all that kind of stuff. So if you look up the Morning Spotlight, you'll find me.
Okay. And once you see the logo as well, I mean, the beard, the shirt, like it's very distinguishable. And obviously it's like your personal brand. It's your authentic self. So you are living what you were preaching here on my show. And I appreciate that.
The logo,
you're being authentic.
The logo I'm bald, and the logo has way more hair than maybe I ever had. But when I made the logo, I had hair. So I didn't want to change it. But that's like
the beard looks very, very great though. So
thank you. I appreciate that. Don't tell anybody about the hair though. Just
no one has to know.
Us.
Just they can pretend that the hair is like the same. And I mean, you're wearing the hat, so I couldn't even tell, right?
Exactly. Right.
But I really enjoyed our time here today, Mike. I mean, pleasure getting to know you. I know with me on your show and you on mine, we got a little bit of probably overlap of like, did we talk about that on your show or mine? Yeah. But either way, thank you everyone who's tuning in and listening. Make sure to go check out Mike's resources, his website, his podcast. And if you have any questions, just DM us on Instagram or join us in Clubhouse. And also one call to action I'd like to make more often is that if you got value out of the show, just screenshot this, tag us on your story so that we know, and maybe type one or two things that you took away that you're going to implement, whether that's being yourself or something else. We'd love to hear that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to use that call to action for sure. So
I got to kind of like clean it up and like repeat it, a few times to practice,
I definitely have to practice. I'm not as well spoken as you, so I definitely have to practice it and try to like
you're doing a great job.
Yeah, thanks. But again, I appreciate it. Thanks to you so much for having me. This has been so much fun.
Likewise. Thanks, Mike. We'll be in touch.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.